Welcome, beautiful yogis. We are here to relax our bodies, calm our minds, and reset our entire system in restorative yoga. So glad you're here. We'll begin in the open book pose. So you'll need your two blocks, forming a little step over your bolster, and then sitting so that you can lie back. I like to have cobbler's pose legs for this, but it's certainly not essential. What we want is the midline of the body being boosted up by the bolster, and then the lateral sides of the body dropping away each side. Your sit bones, your tailbone is on the mat, not on the bolster, and your sacrum is snuggled in to the end of your bolster. As you close your eyes, welcome yourself to this moment and this gift of deep, deep relaxation. Go ahead and take a deep nose breath in. Beautiful full breath that keeps coming in, and then blow it away. And as we did, a deep nose breath in. And blowing it away. And as you do it again, know that this is the gift that you are giving yourself, your full attention. It's for your body, your nervous system. And the extra gift is that we're doing it together. We're all committed to be here. We're all committed to this particular breath. And this letting go of the turmoil of our times, both collective and personal, to withdraw into this inward state, to sense the most basic of our aliveness, this breath itself. There is the rising of it, the filling up. And now, if you like, just the nose, breathing it out. Your incoming breath that fills your lungs deeply, perhaps more deeply than you have on this day. Letting it go again. So straightforward and yet so elusive, as so much that is healing for us can be elusive. So give yourself to this breath and the feeling of this breath, ignoring all the other characters that live in you, that live in me, that live in all of us, that seem to find urgency elsewhere, as though somewhere else is going to be better. Moving into the three areas of the inhalation, from the bottom upwards, and from the top downwards. This is how we self-soothe. This is how we listen to that deeper voice that says, you need to relax. We have some nature sounds in this track. A little brewing storm, perhaps a rain shower. All of it happening on the internal level. Receiving this moment fully. how things can be elusive. "Nothing's working," said Rabbit. "Well, have you tried unplugging?" asks Bear. "I don't plug in anywhere," says Rabbit. "Yes, you do," said Bear. "You're plugged into the world around you." "Oh," said Rabbit, giving this some thought. "Well, how do I unplug then?" Close your eyes, let your muscles relax, and listen only to the sound of yourself breathing in and out, said Bear. And after a while, when you feel ready, you can plug back in and try again. And that's how elusive it is. We lose track of the breath so easily, and yet it is our most primal connection to Source, to life. Can you guide your breath in and guide it out, knowing it's been doing that all by itself all day, all your life? And it is doing it consciously that makes a difference. Makes a huge difference. It is an unplugging of the world around us. And connecting to this most primal part of our aliveness. Even as you are resting in your breath, your mind resting in your breath and returning to your breath each time you might feel yourself slipping away, and it's perfectly normal. Know that at the same time your body is opening. A relaxed mind facilitates a relaxed body. Just as the opposite is true too. A tense mind creates a very tense body, a body that struggles to digest food, that struggles to sleep, that struggles to think. So we are undoing all of that. Enjoy your breathing. Enjoy your own aliveness. Tracing the 3 steps of the inhalation. They go from the bottom, the middle, to the very top. And reverse for exhalation. And as you well know, each exhalation allows us to relax and let go even more deeply. "What day is it?" asks Eeyore. "It's today," says Pooh. What time is it? Says Eeyore. It's now. It's now. Now and this breathing and body. Three areas of inhale, 3 areas of exhale, and then add, please, at the end of your exhale, a little moment where there's no breath at all and where you are suspended. Suspended into a lovely deep ease. We don't hold that moment too long. The next breath awaits. Beautiful yogis, let's complete this opening pose. So bring your hands and help your knees back up together, rolling over to your side. Come on up and we'll change position now. Setting up for our next pose, which is of course the revolved child's pose, where we can open one of our blankets to sit down on, sitting down on the left buttock. A hand to approach the bolster from this mermaid shape. Lift your trunk from your waist, you can turn it and then come to lie forward right in the middle, and then rest on your left ear. And so now both arms fall forward, shoulders relax forward, as does the entire trunk of your body, dropping forward on this support. And we are, of course, in this spiral shape with the hips facing one way and the trunk facing forward. So we can bring our breath now deep into the back body. Deep into your back body goes your breathing. The elusivity of even rest itself. Sometimes we just can't find it, we can't get it. And so this moment, this now moment, come into the allowing place, unplugged, supported, your mind tending your breath as it comes into your back, into your belly, and leaves again slowly, completely, to a moment of no breath at all. So each exhalation where the letting go happens and the relaxation response is freed up. In that gap without breath, in that little moment of air hunger, this is where the magic happens. So we disengage from the thoughts, the constant thoughts that the brain produces. Of course, that's its job. But thoughts are simply that, thoughts. And not each one needs to be tended to. Most, in fact, can be allowed to go by like clouds. The Buddhists speak about the mind like the vast sky, and everything else is simply weather. Comes, goes, changes. Your mind, this vast blue sky. The in, the out, and the pause at the end is the breath pattern we're on. And to know that your intention is very, very powerful. Your intention to show up and practice this pranayama, this yoga pose. All of us with that same intention to rest our weary bones, to find that which is so elusive, that deep rest. The sense of it being right there in that moment of no breath. That we get a glimpse of each time we get there, and we can't stay there. Because breath flows one into the next. And we're in that beautiful slow river of breath that we're cultivating, that's so helpful for our heart and for our nervous system. And the way the synapses are firing. Slowing it down is good. So beautiful yogis, it's time for us to change sides. So use your hands, find purchase into the ground that you could push your hands and your strong arms help you up, help you via your knees or your bum to make your way to the other side, dropping now onto your right sit bone. Lifting and turning from your rib cage to come forward again down the middle of your bolster. Come to rest on your right ear, and that feeling of forward, downward momentum that we know as gravity. How we can be taken by that. Nothing to hold on to. Not at this time that we've set aside to be present. To allow that breath deeply into the back. So doing, it'll come into your belly as well. And how as we let the breath go, the body becomes a little more surrendered to the props, and at the end when there's no breath, so still. Next breath is here. And so this is how we self-soothe. It helps to do it together. It helps to have the assigned scheduling of this. All of it helps our commitment. It's an act of will, even though falling asleep or resting it's a choice, but it's also a deep allowing. It's kind of both and, isn't it? Allowing the exhaustion to drain away. You could think of it also as those chemicals in the body associated with stress, just ebbing away with each exhalation. Cortisol, adrenaline, breathing them away, letting them go, especially in that moment of no breath, where everything is still and suspended. This is how we step out of clock time and the sense of being hurried. This is where we can luxuriate and marinate and bathe. It is seeping away the tiredness, those burdens. Nothing is required other than your attention, lightly resting on the incoming, the outgoing. So now we complete this second side, using again your strong hands and arms to come up. To take the third in the sequence, which is child's pose itself, so your bolster can stay as it is, and when you have a little knee issue, then pop the blanket in between your thigh and your calves and lie forward in the child's pose. You can also lower your bolster if you like. Some do not need the blanket, and some can't do this pose at all. Everything to do with our knees. And so our alternate pose here is crocodile pose. And for that, you'll simply lie on your tummy with the bolster under your tummy and all the other props out of the way. And just lying forward. It's a beautiful way to lie and breathe. So we've revolved the spine in the revolved child's pose, both towards the left and towards the right. And now the deep ease of the spine in its natural path. The spine which carries our central nervous system. And in the yogic anatomy, the spine carries the central channel of prana, life force, which flows right along through the middle of the spine. Such a vital part of our anatomy. And then the yogic anatomy, which is, of course, the energy body. Along the spine and spiraling like a caduceus are the two channels that begin together at your tailbone or the root and separate and then cross and separate and cross, just like the caduceus symbol. And those are the lunar and solar channels of the energy body, the masculine and the feminine energy channels. We all need both to be balanced. And to calm ourselves, we need to activate the lunar channel, the allowing, receiving channel. We do that with all the techniques we use. Focus on breath in that restful moment. Restful moment of nothing. Mind the wide open sky. And we can witness thoughts, ideas, emotions that are going to come in. There's no point to stop them, but we can choose to shift attention. That image of our energy body, the beautiful luminous thread that is the main energy channel, Shushumna, from the tail to the crown. And these beautiful flows of lunar and solar energy crossing in 7 places, which form the energy centers, the chakras, the wheels of life. This extraordinary body that knows how to heal itself. But what it needs is, of course, good care, and very important is rest. Enjoying the 3 more cycles of your breath here. And then pushing your way back to all 4s. If you've been in child's pose, just give your legs a little stretch. Your knees been closed up, just stretch one leg and the other leg. And then before we move on, let's just do a little spinal flexion here on all 4s. So arching your back and rounding your back. If you're not happy on your knees, you can do this seated as well. Inhaling into the arching of the back. We call this the cow, and the rounding is the cat. Still with your breath. As you exhale and round, hold again that moment of empty. Let the breath in. Rounding as you let the breath out. And the moment of empty. One more time, please, beautiful yogis. Nice. Our next pose is the seated forward bend, supported forward bend, and so we're going to build our support with our 2 blocks. 2 high blocks with the bolster on top. And this blankie folding now into a little seat. You can sit with cross legs, you can sit with wide legs, see what works for you. And make sure that you have plenty of cushions. Looks like a good high pile there. Good high pile of pillows to rest forward. What you don't want is pain in your lower back here. So we rest forward. We continue to bring the inhale deep into the belly and lower back. Softening forward more deeply. And rest for a heartbeat or 2 at the end of your breath. And so these 2 energy channels, the solar and the lunar, very much like the 2 hemispheres of the brain. And one is really good at science and facts and things that we can tie up and understand and completely get. And the other side of the brain is poetry and mythology and stories and intuition. The inner knowing, the great mystery that we cannot sew up, zipper up and neatly say, this is it. It's the part that stays a little elusive, and yet we know it's true. And we need both. And so, as you rest in this forward bend and breathe, share a little of the languaging around this mystery that we cannot sew up. In the language of David Whyte's wonderful poet, philosopher. He lives up here in the Pacific Northwest, and it's just great with language. So, seeing what cannot to begin with be seen, saying what in the beginning cannot be said, hearing what could not at first be heard. These are all the tasks of poetry, which is really just the strange word we use for human speech on the edge of revelation and discovery. Language that is about to make itself unnecessary, arrival and disappearance. Heard and not heard at the same time, everything both invisible and seen again in a new light. And so David Whyte goes on with the poem that he calls Invisible. Invisible, always beside you, always with you, a hair's breadth that is no hair's breadth at all. Just a word away. Or sometimes, when the need is great, an entire sentence lived fully and physically to the end. But most of the time, apprehended and even fully realized only in the moment before anything that needs a single word takes shape. Your entire body flooded with the gift that is given every day just by breathing in. And then the moment you let it go completely and utterly, in the out breath, the entire world flooded by everything that lies beneath what you had previously thought was you. I'm going to read it again, as it is quite elusive poetry. It's called Invisible. Always beside you, always with you, a hair's breadth that is no hair's breadth at all. Just a word away. Or sometimes, when the need is great, an entire sentence lived fully and physically to the end. But most of the time, apprehended and even fully realized only in the moment before anything that needs a single word takes shape. Your entire body flooded with the gift that is given every day just by breathing in. And then the moment you let it go, completely and utterly in the out-breath, the entire world flooded by everything that lies beneath what you had previously thought was you. Enjoying 5 or so more of these mysterious breaths. And the mystery at the end of the breath. Lovely yogis, we complete the seated forward bend. So come up. And then before we go to the next pose, there's a lovely moment where we could sit tall and practice now alternate nostril breathing. And alternate nostril breathing is the balancing of these energy lines that I was sharing with you, that flow from the tail and meet finally here at the brow. So we do it this way. We close off the right hand nostril with the right hand thumb, sitting tall, breathing in through your open nostril. That's your left. And when you've completed your inhale, close up your left nostril and lift your thumb and breathe out. Leaving that right nostril open, breathe in. Switching now to breathe out. And staying, left side breathes in. Switch to breathe out through the right. Empty, empty, empty. Pause. Stay right. Breathe in right. Switch at the top. Exhale the other side. We're going to stay on this side and pause for a moment, little tiny air hunger moment. And then inhale, same side. Switch for exhale. Stay in the pause and stay for inhale. Continue with this patterning. This patterning so amplifying the balancing of our two subsidiary yet very important energy channels. And it doesn't matter what our gender is, we have both. This is a beautiful pranayama that's very accessible and easy to do. One that would be helpful to practice in your everyday. Setting aside 3 to 4 minutes. It is so calming and centering. It's beautiful to do before you practice your formal seated meditation. Great way to begin. When you get to the end of your left side exhalation and you've rested for that heartbeat or two on no breath, rest your hand down and allow the breath to flow through both incoming and outgoing. Just witness your breath here. This beautiful technique often takes us to a very quiet place. Less thoughts, more relaxed focus. I invite you to really stay with that state as you open your eyes and set up for our next pose, which is elevated legs. You can use this setup for your legs, or you can take yourself to your nearby wall and lie on your back. So see which way you'd like to practice elevated legs today. You can use your little tabletop setup this way. Support for your head if you like. And smooth your clothes and smooth your flesh. Give your arms a little space, rolling your palms open and upwards. Notice how the upper arms respond to that, and that your shoulders fall back again. And how good this feels on your back to follow the pose we just did. Elevated legs, a lovely place to relax. Following your breath, tending your body. And as you rest and relax, I have a little story. It's story time. Long, long ago, in a village far away, there lived a baker, a man who baked fresh bread for the entire village every single day. However, it happened that our baker was indeed a very stingy and greedy man. His neighbor, however, was a kind man, always ready to share what little he had, and who cared more about making friends than about making money. Our mean, stingy baker was jealous of this cheerful neighbor. How can he be so happy, he grumbled. Every day, the delicious smell of the fresh bread and the cinnamon buns filled the air around the bakery, and the cheerful neighbor loved breathing it. And he would sit eating his own stale crusts of bread because he was a man without much money. He delighted in the fine smells that came wafting over his little cottage. He could breathe it in and sigh with happiness. And as the baker watched, he thought, "It's the smell of my bread that is making him enjoy those old crusts. That isn't fair. He should have to pay for such pleasure." And after seeing this again and again, he could stand it no more, and he went over to his impoverished neighbor and handed him a bill. "What? You want me to pay you for the smell of your bread? I don't have any money to buy even anything in your shop, let alone the smell." "Yes, that's right. You pay me nothing, and yet every day you steal the smell of my baked goods," yelled the baker. "You mean you want me to pay 5 coins as a smelling fee?" Now the neighbor was laughing. "Yes, that's right, and I will not be cheated. If you do not pay me, I will take you to court." When word of the baker's demands spread through the village, the people just laughed at the idea of the stolen smell. At last, the baker was so angry, he took his demands to the respected judge, and everyone was sure the judge would dismiss the case as ludicrous. And now here the story gets a little bit creepy, as it might do when we think about judges. The town's judge was no other than our old friend and the wise fool, Nasruddin. Nasruddin was the village judge. Nasruddin did not dismiss the case. It is my duty to listen to all complaints, listening to both sides impartially. I order both the baker and the neighbor to come to court tomorrow. And he also sent word that the neighbor should bring with him to court 5 coins. The townsfolk were puzzled and shocked at this. Surely he would not be made to pay for the stolen smell. The court fell silent as Nasruddin walked into the court. He listened to the complaint of the baker. Every day he sits there and enjoys the smell of my baking, and he pays me nothing. Then Nasruddin turned to the neighbor and said, "Is it true that you have been enjoying the smell of the fresh bread daily for all these years?" "Yes," replied the man, "it is true." Nasruddin now declared, "It is true. A smell has been stolen, and stealing is a crime. A crime has been committed." But, Your Honor." Silence in the court. "Now, take those 5 coins out of your pocket. Now, do as I say. Drop the coins from one hand into the other." The man did as he was told, and everyone heard the jingling of the money. And the judge turned to the baker and asked, "Well, did you hear the sound of the money?" "Yes, I did, Your Lordship." "Did you enjoy that sound?" "Yes, I did. It's the money he owes me." And the baker began to move towards the poor man to grab the coins. "Oh, not so fast, not so fast, sir. You already have had fair payment. Your neighbor enjoyed the smell, and you enjoyed the sound. You have been paid by hearing the sound of the money." The court was in uproar at Nasruddin's cleverness, and the man hung his head in shame at his own greed. And from that day, Nasruddin was declared the wisest of men and revered by all. So beautiful, yogis. Let's bring the elevated legs position to completion. Bend your knees, hug them in close to you. Rock a little side to side, soothe your sacrum. And coming back to your mat, we set up now for our next shape. It's going to be bridge pose. 2 ways we could do bridge pose. I'm going to show you the big pose and then the not so big pose. So bring your blocks to the foot end. And then this bolster we could use in one of 2 ways. And the bit more challenging way is to have it long. Sit right in the middle of it. And lie back. And you'll be lying back in a way that your head arrives on your mat, not only your head, but also both your shoulders and upper arms. Make sure that they have landed, so you're not just hanging off that bolster. Very important that your upper back is on the mat. And then you can let your legs slide straight over the blocks and your arms alongside. Lovely big opening stretchy pose. And if that feels a bit much for you, then do it the gentler way, which is just turning the bolster around so that it is across your mat and that it snags just your sacrum, leaving more of your back to rest on the ground. So one of those two is a good option. And if it's still too much for your lower back, instead of the bolster, just use a single blanket. A little lift instead of such a big one. And as you close your eyes here, feel the spaciousness. So now we're both grounded and spacious. How yoga allows us to experience both. The bringing together, the integrating of the opposites, being able to live with both, and that is the gift of yoga. And so that life is not black or white, right or wrong, that we can integrate and bring into wholeness our entire human experience in this breathing body that is so gifted with this very breath. A beautiful place to drop deeper into your own stillness. Still, the little pause at the end of the exhale will take you deeper. And so, yogis, we come to the completion of the supported bridge pose. Bend your knees so your feet are flat on your mat, allowing you to lift your hips and maneuver your bolster down. So that it's underneath your knees. Now you can extend your legs and pull in your blankie under your head. And lie now in this completely neutral shape that we call Shavasana. Every yoga practice traditionally ends with Shavasana, because this is the place where we integrate the movements, the reflections, the breathing patterns. And so all that we do is feel the body drop, letting go any intentional breathing. Become the witness of being breathed. The witness of thoughts that flow. Continuing to treasure this now moment. Inviting you now as you rest to bring your awareness to your right hand, thanking your right hand, your left hand, how our hands serve us. And let's go down to the feet and thank our feet, how they too serve us. And the knees. And our belly, and how it serves us. The skin of your face. The mystery of how we can never see our own face other than its reflection. How it too serves us. Now bring your awareness to your heart and feel your breath at your heart. Breathing more deeply, more intentionally at the heart. The heart that connects itself to the brain, that connects us to one another. And the heart, when we can trust it to lead the way in our life. Breathing gratitude now as you wiggle your fingers and your toes. Curl up on one side. Breathing gratitude. And then as you are ready, completing our practice together in an upright seat. Bringing your palms to prayer pose. We are so grateful for your attendance and participation and your presence. Thank you, everyone. Namaste.